Welcome to the BPM 360 podcast. I'm Russell.
And I'm Caspar. And together we will help you navigate the treacherous waters of the BPM adoption journey. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Russell, my friend, how are you today?
Fine. I've been looking forward to talk to you all day.
You are? Why is that?
Yes. Well, I've been triggered by all these interviews you've been having, seeing them pop up on LinkedIn, which I think is a great format to give some timely feedback on how the conference is progressing. So definitely, I see that you were really busy back in the hotel. Obviously, I see in your background.
Yeah. I try not to have the mess in the background, but I just finished today's program, and I'm a bit bummed because I'm not able to go into the apparently spectacular salt mine that they go into for the gala dinner, but I got to do some meetings tonight for US-based customer, which is fine. It's part of work. So I thought instead of coming from the venue, I just go back first, and then in a quieter area, let's have a conversation about what I heard today and the conversations I was having.
Great. And there's one point I was looking at the schedule, the detailed daily schedule for today. There was this industry forum as well. So I don't know in how far, which streams you were following. There was the educational forum, the industry forum, and the BPM forum. All of them looked really interesting. Very intrigued, of course, with the industry forum because, applications and applicability of all this research is something, of course, that I'm always very interested in. But I also saw the educational forum, Hans-Jürgen Schirun, on actually how to use process models to teach ERP systems. I think that's his topic around SAP. So also some renowned names here. But come on, let's kick off, and you give us your insights. Which streams were you in? Who did you talk to? What was the most impressing talks you saw?
Yeah, so it started with the keynote, which was quite interesting. It was around studying humans in software engineering or software development. That was a professor from Eindhoven University of Technology, and he went very deep into, I would almost call it a rabbit hole on what are differences in the way that you approach software coding between the various types of people on Earth. And he went way further than just being male or female. He even went into what kind of gentrification there is, and if you're able-bodied or disabled. All those things seem to be having an impact. So that was, I mean, it wasn't as eye-opening as the ethics one from yesterday, but it still make you think. And I feel quite old because they also did a survey on when are you considered to be a veteran in the software industry, from what age on? And you don't want to know the answer, Russell, because you and me we will not qualify for not being a veteran. We are very much into veteran territory.
Yeah, we're the outranged, like the old COBOL programmers. Yeah, we may be reactivated if they find some systems where only we have the knowledge on. But you saying that, I mean, the topic does sound quite interesting, but it does definitely also touch on ethics, because if they are like researching into what the capabilities or how the different way of programming, maybe also the efficiency of program is influenced by such factors. Hell, if that isn't an ethical question to look into?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I know. And there was he showed this one picture where he was talking to somebody from, I think it was a talent acquisition company, and they get requirements from tech companies. And one of these companies said, the ideal candidate is a Black woman who has survived a stroke. And then that had so many alarm bells went off in my head, like, why should that even matter? I mean, I'm not naive enough to think that it doesn't matter. It matters apparently, but it shouldn't matter. I mean, it shouldn't make a damn difference if somebody who writes code is a man, a woman, or anything in between nowadays. I mean, it shouldn't make a difference. But apparently, according to studies, it does make a big difference. And that makes you think a little bit about the position that you and me, we're in the same category, by the way, that we have on the marketplace, certainly when it comes to software development, in which neither of us are actually active in, but I think it applies to other.
Well, I guess what you're saying is that we don't qualify for that job that they were looking for. So I haven't had a
No,
stroke yet,
certainly not for that one. No,
and for that one, we don't fall into that raster. But I think but then you have this like what I think here, but maybe it's too much for sure. But we have to maybe look at that. So you have a
Yeah,
pattern, okay, that certain like maybe coding structures or the way they code efficiency or what are they doing or the way they even are efficient in coding correlates to certain like patterns on gender, color, and whatever other attributes, health attributes as well.
yeah,
But the thing is, what you are looking for is how could you actually then, in an interview, maybe people have say provide sample code, and then based on that evaluate their capabilities concerning coding, and not trying to take the model and say let's analyze all the codes against such like gender specific or whatever like say non-relevant factors, try to find patterns, and then conclude from that everybody who's had a stroke is a good coder. Yeah, so
yeah,
it's like this.
yeah. That's the wrong way around. Yeah,
I think it's a bit of the wrong way around, but I wasn't in detail in the research, but again, the main point is super interesting, but definitely something that really touches also the ethical level of
yeah.
BPM and the capabilities of
Absolutely.
artificial intelligence and analysis. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. And then if I look at I wasn't able to join as many of those forums that I did yesterday because I had some meetings in between, and I also got stuck a little bit talking to people, which is also equally interesting. And so I put out 2 shorts today. So yesterday we had after we did the episode, by the way. So I interviewed Mahendra, Professor Mahendra from Indonesia. I already knew her for a long time virtually because I did a guest lecture for her in the COVID pandemic. But it was so interesting, and she's really working hard to find inclusivity in BPM in Indonesia. It's not as common there as it is in Western Europe to even do BPM. So she's really working hard to find people in Indonesia that actually are willing to let's say partake in BPM. So that was an interesting one. So check that one out. This morning I had the pleasure of meeting with Antal Christoph. He is a professor on the University of Budapest, and one of the things that strikes him most is the gap between what they show as cutting edge research at the BPM conference and the level of maturity of companies doing BPM. I mean, that's like a universe apart. And there's a reason why there is a gap, but I don't think that the gap needs to be that big. And so he also does some consulting on the side in his own company. He has a dual role, and he's seeing the same things I'm seeing, and probably you are seeing them too, Russell. And then just to finish up on the shorts, the third one I did was with Iris Berenpoot from the Utrecht University, who I also know a little bit longer because I do guest lectures there every year for the last couple of years. And she developed a methodology that makes RPD, so robotic process discovery, on an aggregate level, much easier. Just in 1 minute, you know what robotic process discovery is, right? I mean, it's recording the human interaction, just for the audience. I know that you know, Russell, but just for the audience. So robotic process discovery records mouse click and keyboard stroke interaction between the user and the system, only for selected systems. So it's it's privacy proof. Don't get me wrong on that. But it goes into the content of the application, what it is that you're doing, what field are you filling. What she's now doing is more on a personal productivity level, saying how can I use that mechanism to capture the names of the windows that I'm working in on my computer. And I can simply record that all day long. I can filter out stuff that I don't want to capture, but I can then create an event log that I can put into process mining. So I can start to analyze my own productivity. And so why am I going back to Outlook or Gmail every 5 minutes. I might need to make a change there. So that was quite interesting as well.
Definitely, that's interesting. I think what they need to do is take two things into consideration. So people that are then jumping from their computer and doing something on the phone in the meantime, so that we have a lot of cross-device activities. I mean, and not just in a jokey like private whatever environment. But I also noticed that when I was analyzing my screen time using as an Apple product, whatever, junkie, that there are a lot of productivity like setups where you're not just singularly going over your interface. And the other aspect is, of course, how much manual tasks do you have or distractions? So the whole procrastination topic around being distracted. So and like with process mining, you measure what you measure and you start digging into how you can optimize that. But you should not forget the factor of where the data ends and where your non-manual processes and activities then start. And typically, if you want to optimize your productivity and everything, you have to have a look at the big picture, not just the data. But look and say,
exactly.
There's an hour gap there. What happened in that time?
It was my ADHD kicking in, I guess, in my case.
Exactly.
And then here's a little funny one. So they had, which is quite strange for a conference, the coffee break area was like 500 meters from the venue.
Oh,
so you had to walk outside, which in and by itself is good because you're going to get some fresh air. But if the program starts at 9 in the morning, and the coffee break area doesn't open until 9, something's wrong. That's not really thought through, I would say, because a lot of people arrive around 8:30, and then what do people need in the morning? At least a lot of people, they need coffee. So they walk there, and then they come walking back, and then we were walking there, and we ultimately managed to get them to open up like 15 minutes earlier, so we could get some coffee and water. But then once we got into the room, they closed the door and locked it again, so nobody else could get in. The rule was 9 o'clock we open up, and they're quite keen on sticking to the rules apparently in Poland.
Yeah, I've heard of that, but I guess not so different in other countries. So let's
no. But so if I I was talking to the organizers of next year's BPM conference.
Okay.
I know where it is. I'm not going to say that here because it hasn't been disclosed yet, but I might share that with you in person later. Make sure that you get there. I think it's going to be a wonderful one. And then I'm talking to the organizing committee. So listen, how can we bring in more of the industry view and maybe some presentations from practitioners to share with the academic people? This is what we deal with on a day-to-day basis when we talk about BPM. We love it that you do research on a lot of things, but it is not our experience in day-to-day life.
Yes, I think a lot around as you said, the personal side and organizational side and accountability.
Exactly.
All these topics, you could have an own stream. Not necessarily that there will be a lot of research around that, but there may be, but maybe that'll trigger something that people will also take into aspects more this real life application and around establishing accountability from a sociological perspective or an organizational perspective. I think there's a lot of also topics you could touch from a research perspective, going more in direction of psychology and ethics. So in that area, there's definitely something to be done. That would be great. Let's try to get that. Just by one chance, I was just looking at the program down here. There was one thing about large language models for process mining, a case study on using large language models for process modeling in enterprise organizations. Did you manage to see that?
No, unfortunately not. Who was the speaker? Who was the speaker of that?
Clara Ziche and Giovanni Abruzzese, something.
Okay, no, I didn't catch that.
Okay, I'll get that right. I'll practice it next time.
I can say two things or one thing. So I did secure 2 very interesting guests for our podcast season 2. Not going to say who they are because then the surprise will be gone, but I'll share them with you in a minute. And one of them actually is one of Poland's, I think, biggest experts on the cross-section between AI and human behavior. So that, again, might be in a very interesting, and that's why for a second, I thought that was a topic that he was involved in. Then we would have had a very nice bridge. But now, let's say, wrapping up from this conference, I was very happy to be here. I got a chance to catch up with a lot of the people in academics that I already know and work with. I've seen great presentations. I need to go through a lot of the slides, and there's one realization that I had virtually in every of those, let's say, in every of those presentations that were not keynote speeches. So if you go into those BPM forum or journal forums or all those tracks, they would go through slides, and I would be able to follow them, and then from 1 second on the other, boom, they're way neck deep into math and into declarative formal language, and I'm like, okay, now you lost me. And then it was every session that was like, yeah, I get that, I understand that, boom, okay, I'm lost. It's like, and that is about that gap that I mentioned, and I know that they need to go there in order to prove something scientifically, and a lot of people in the room do understand what they're doing, but for laymen's on that field, laymen's like me, I'm not technical. It's Jesus, that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, but that's something you have to bridge that gap. Just one short comment that
Sure.
keynote I was talking about, that's tomorrow. I just saw that. I was looking at the Thursday agenda.
Okay.
I don't know how long you'll be on the conference tomorrow, because I know that you're packing and you've got to move on.
No, my whole morning until I need to leave for the airport is packed with sessions that I tried to postpone for the today and yesterday. So I'm not going to be at the conference tomorrow, unfortunately.
Okay.
But we'll manage to get a hold of the slide decks and that kind of stuff. So we'll be fine.
Absolutely. That's what we do. Get the slide decks, check them, invite the people, and invite them to an interview. Have great fun tomorrow.
Thank
Travel
you.
safe.
Yeah, thanks. That's up to the pilot and the bus driver. So thank you very much, Russell. I'll speak to you very soon again.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
All right. Cheers, man.